We understand the concerns that Singaporeans have about rising prices, especially when it comes to food. And these recent transactions, I think, can cause some anxieties on the ground. The best way for us to address and tackle this is to ensure that in all our housing estates, there are affordable food options. And that means hawker centers are available, as well as coffee shops that could be run by social enterprises, like NTUC Food Fair, for example. So that's our key lever to continue with our building program for hawker centers to ensure that affordable food options remain available to all Singaporeans. And that will also put some competitive pressure in the market when it comes to some of these commercial transactions. At the same time, besides dealing with the supply situation, we will, as we have been doing in the budget and in this package, continue to help Singaporeans with their cost of living. And so to provide, whether it's CDC vouchers or GST vouchers, as we are doing in this package, to ensure that everyone will be helped, but especially the lower income groups and vulnerable groups will get more help. I know because of the concerns about cost of living, Singaporeans are worrying that the GST will add to the concerns about rising inflation and cost of living. But in fact, we've had an extensive debate on this recently in the budget. I've explained why the GST increase is necessary. Our spending needs are rising very sharply, especially because of an aging population and healthcare spending. We have looked at the different possibilities for raising revenue, and we have made various revenue moves in the budget, including on personal income tax, property tax, and luxury car taxes. But they are still not enough, and that's why we have to raise the GST. But recognizing the uncertainties, recognizing the difficult economic environment, I had decided to push back the GST to as late as possible and to stagger the increase in 2 steps, and importantly, to put in place a very generous offset package. Essentially, for the majority of Singaporean households, they will not feel the impact of the GST increase for at least 5 years. For the lower income groups, they will not feel the impact for 10 years. So those were all explained and set aside as part of the budget measures. And I go back to the points I mentioned earlier in my remarks, which is I hope everyone understands the challenges that we have to deal with going forward are not just cost of living and inflation. We have to deal more fundamentally with a very different operating environment. Different sorts of challenges, including climate change, more bifurcated world externally and within Singapore, domestic challenges too, including our rapidly aging population. And to prepare Singapore well for these challenges, we have to press ahead with our economic reforms. We cannot afford to slow down. And that includes ensuring that we have a strong and sustainable fiscal position going forward, because that will enable us to deal with a more uncertain future, to deal with any challenges that we may face in the future, and also to seize new opportunities. There are indeed more downside risks to the global economy as well as the global inflation outlook. But for now, the Singapore economy is still growing. I think the forecast will be updated by MTI in due course, but we still expect healthy growth this year. And there is considerable momentum behind the economy because we have just opened up our borders, we have relaxed our COVID-19 measures, and many economic activities are, continuing to do well. On inflation, we do expect prices to continue to remain elevated for some time. But unlike central banks in many developed countries who have been behind the curve in tackling inflation, the MAS has been vigilant and has made moves in a very timely manner. Since October, MAS has already made 3 moves on inflation. And we are still going through the effects of the monetary tightening in slowing down the momentum of price increases in our economy. But the situation is fluid, is dynamic. We'll have to see what happens to the global economy next year, whether there is a recession and how severe the recession will be and how it impacts Singapore. So this is something we will continue to monitor very closely, as I mentioned, and we will adjust our programs and measures as needed according to this dynamic situation.